Please go ahead.
Honorable Dr. Mohammed Murtala, congratulations. I have no doubt about your capabilities to be able to drive the ministry. But then I have just a few questions. Well, under the Paris Agreement, countries are allowed to collaborate in order to be able to meet their climate targets. Subsequent to this, Ghana has entered into, and the rest. This is supposed to bring to the country millions of dollars. However, the process is so slow. If you get into the ministry, how do you intend to speed up the process so that this huge opportunity can be realized by the country? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll first and foremost find out why the process is slow. And if you're able to identify why the process is slow, I believe we can get a remedy. Of course, like I said earlier, if ministries are working together, you'll be able to identify some of the solutions to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be a critical ministry that I would engage, having identified why the process is slow. And I believe that we'll be able to find a solution to it. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer. My second question is, funding research in Ghana is a perennial problem which everybody is grumbling with. We took a bold decision as a country somewhere around 2020, and we passed a law, the Ghana National Research Fund. And in the passage of the law, the president the president is supposed to allocate a seed money of 50 million Ghana cedi. Then subsequently, at least up to about 1% of our total revenue supposed to accrue for this fund. Till date, over 5 years down the lane, no action has taken place. What steps will you take to ensure that as soon as you get to your office, you work towards the implementation of this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The information I got is that when the law was passed, I think in 2020 by Parliament, there was a difficulty as to which ministry handles it. I think the debate was between MESTI and Ministry of Education as to which ministry should handle it. Unfortunately, this debate or argument, ran for 4 years as to which ministry handles it. Yes, 50 million Ghana cedis as the seed capital. The information I got as of this morning is that because of that debate as to which ministry handles it, it was only in 2024, I think that by the end of 2024, that the president directed that Ministry of Education should handle that particular fund. So what I'll do is that, of course, I'll sit with the Minister for Education, who happened to be my senior brother, and see how we can tailor the funding of it to meet the vision and the policy position of His Excellency the President. As a matter of fact, I don't mind much which ministry handles it if we are to work together. For me, it doesn't matter which ministry handles that facility. But if we are to work together, I think that is what I will be interested in. Thank you.
My last question, Honorable Dr. Mohammed Murtala, you are going into a ministry where you have a lot of technical men. It's a technical ministry with a lot of technical men. What steps do you intend to take in order to ensure that there is that kind of smooth working relationship between you and the technical men to ensure that the process of ensuring total development of this country is ensured?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me quickly say that I don't know why repeatedly you address me doctor. I haven't graduated yet. I'll be graduating, God willing, on the 11th of next month. Don't do that, and University of Ghana says that we are not awarding you the PhD again. Just besides the point. When I had my first engagement with the heads of institutions, I got the sense that every head there is a professor. When we were to do, self-introduction, and at a point, I even addressed someone as professor. I said, no, I'm not a professor. And I said, I thought every, head of an institution under Minister of Environment, Science and Technology is a professor. I do understand that it's a purely technical ministry. I do understand that it is full of scientists. I would give them the absolute freedom to operate, as long as what they do is in sync with the vision and policy direction of President Mahama. I wouldn't have any problem. And I indicated that to them, that I would allow them to operate whatever they think that we should do that will near to the benefit of the people of this country, and in line with the vision and policy position of President Mahama. I'm good to go with them. So I respect academia. I respect people with such intellect, and I wouldn't have any problem working with them.
Thank you. Congratulations once again. Wish you all the best in the ministry.
Thank you very much. Ajia, Honorable, please, it's your turn now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Do you want me to congratulate you? Anyway, congratulations. All those there, congratulations. You see, I'm congratulating my husband. What's wrong with that? Congratulations and well done. I am not surprised about your appointment. I will make sure I'll always be by your side to urge you on, and then also to make sure that at least, if anything at all, you will deliver. And inshallah, I know you will deliver. The only thing I am praying for is good health, long life, happiness, and the energy to work. And inshallah, I know it shall be done. So I congratulate you. And the only thing I want to ask is, if you go to most of our villages, you will find these plastics. I know there is a whole chunk of things that can be done with the plastics. And mostly, both the rural folk and especially the women, they have no jobs. Will you consider finding a way to ensure that these individuals are employed so that they can collect these plastics for us to put into good use, which would also be a job for everyone, notwithstanding whether you were saying it or you were not saying it, whether you are NDC or you are MPP. Will you consider that? That apart, I will say, comrade, bravo.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I think that it's important. My view of waste management in this country is anchored on competition, is anchored on value for money, is anchored on delivery. I intend to demonopolize the management of waste in this country. And by engaging local government authority and SMEs, I believe if you do so, that will be an opportunity to create more jobs for people. In the last parliament, I was a member of the Public Accounts Committee. And when we went around the country, we realized that that is not to say that those who are already engaged in it must be discouraged or targeted. But I think that if we involve SMEs at the local level, we'll be able to do it effectively and efficiently and get the value for money we're looking for. Thank you.
Are you done? Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Now I will come to my left. And
Honorable Murtala, you have a very pretty wife.
Hey, be careful. That's haram.
Thank you.
Honorable, congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is an observation before the question. I was trying to indicate to you earlier. Yes. So on the CSIR, I heard you indicate that it was about 81 acres and now it's about 50. But I know Honorable and Recorte did some work with reference to protecting some of these areas. Maybe you should check with him and ensure if some of the lands have been reclaimed and some Ramsar sites as well. Mr. Chair, now my question.
okay, go ahead.
So I've also observed, and I'm sure some Ghanaians have also done the same, the issuance of permit industries, and to the extent where they operate. One of which is in my constituency. The company is called Empire Cement. And a lot of filling stations. Another example is the one closer to Medina, the one that was gutted with fire. I just want to ask you, how do we get these permits issued in the first place? And when they are wrongly issued, what are you going to do to ensure that such further permits are not issued? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's true. There have been some serious debate over the operation of some of these facilities. And I guess the debate only comes up when there is a disaster. But in the absence of the disaster, we seem to be very comfortable as to the statu quo. I do know that it is now preconditioned for any other permit you are supposed to get. If you want to operate, for example, in the mining industry, you need to have the EPA certificate first before you can get any other certificate or permit to be able to operate. Once again, I think that various ministries do not need to work in isolation, and agencies. If you look at the EPA law, it has given EPA so much powers. But the minister has a supervisory role to ensure that the powers given to that agency is used effectively, efficiently, transparently, without any difficulty. The Empire Cement example you gave, I've had some interactions with, leadership of the various agents, particularly EPA. And we will look into that. It is something that I will take up seriously. The good thing is that the permit, my understanding is that it's given every EPA sat on the matter, then refused to issue the permit. Then if you look at the law, you can then petition the minister. And the company petitioned the minister. The minister constituted a team to sit into it. And I think that there were some changes thereof. So it's a matter I want to look at. It's not only Empire Cement. Many other entities that are operating that do not meet the standard. And EPA, once again, will not have to and supervise the permits they issue. And as much as I wouldn't get involved in the legal aspects of the issuance of permits, because if there is any problem, it's the minister who will be blamed. And I don't want to be blamed. I want things to be done in accordance with law. And that's what I will insist. Thank you.
You may ask, is a follow-up? Yes. All right, okay.
Yes, so I think your answer is not a bad one at all. The only thing for me is that, are you in the position to revoke when permits have already been granted, and then you find that for whatever reasons you granted the permit are not in sync with the permit you actually granted?
I think that the legal process not. I think that the processes, there should be some processes that must be met before permit is issued by the appropriate agency, in this case, EPA. And that is why, if you look at the law, that when there is a person who is aggrieved, either by the actions or inactions of EPA, that person can petition, if you like, an appellate body, in this case, the ministry. The minister cannot just say, I have with the powers and expertise to do that. When they submit their report, we'll look at it and see whether we need to go ahead with the permit or not.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I have my second question, and that has to do with the popular Restore Ghana initiative. And this seeks to address very significant environmental and developmental challenges in Ghana. Do you want to expatiate on that, since it's in your manifesto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It borders on reclaiming our lands. And we, like I said, we all know the havoc of Galamsey. And when I answered the earlier question, I said Galamsey is enough to talk about all aspects of environmental destruction. They destroy water bodies, they destroy farmlands, they destroy habitats that live in them, they destroy the livelihood of people. If you ask me, my personal view, I think the issue of fighting Galamsey, it should be the Ministry of Environment that should take the lead. I don't think it should be Ministry of Lands. Ministry of Lands is accused, rightly or wrongly, as having been a participant in the Galamsey menace we have. So it shouldn't be the ministry that should be taking the lead in fighting Galamsey. Unfortunately, the interministerial committee that was constituted, Ministry of Environment was not even on that committee. I think that the reason why Galamsey is an issue is because of the destruction of the environment and the consequences that such destructions bring to our livelihood. So it was mind-boggling that the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology was not even on that committee. I think that the ministry should take a lead role in fighting against this Galamsey menace.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just by way of information, I recollect Professor Frimpong Batin was, and he was then the Minister of Environment, Science and Technology. So he was a member. I think he was even the chair also.
No, but briefly,
He was,
and ever since, MESTI was not even involved again.
yes, Mr. Chair.
This should be your third question.
Yes, that's my third question.
Okay.
Yes. There could always be a follow-up depending on the answer. I just want you to avert your mind to electric waste and the hazard it's causing. And when you go to the Agbogloshi area, and what is currently strategies or plans to ensure that thank you very much, Akwe. Electronic waste. I do not know if you have any plans to ensure that electronic waste is rather waste that would bring money rather than cause more waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's actually an act of parliament, the Hazardous and Electronic Waste Control Management Act of 2016, Act 917. And again, we have what we call the e-waste recycling center engaged in this act. We are unwilling to transport those items to the, if like, the holding center at Agbogloshi. The disturbing information I'm getting is that the people are getting back there. Maybe the question is it a case that the monies that were given to them based on what they were virtually selling was not encouraging? That is one thing I want to look at. If it has to do with money, do we need to up it a little so that will encourage them? When they bring it, they can easily take it without they trying to bend, taking into consideration the health hazards that may occasion as a result of their activities. So it's one thing I want to look at. If it has to do with the money, I want to be looking at that. But you see, when there was a reduction, it wasn't because there was a reduction in the emission. It was because they were no longer operating there because of the actions taken by the then Greater Accra Regional Minister. So they were having other places, they were emitting the same, if you like, carbon dioxide. But we felt that, oh, this thing is now doing well. So I would engage various stakeholders. I would engage the communities, those young men who are doing that. I've been to Agbogloshi a couple of times when I was the MP for Nantong. I would engage them to see them see the need for them to sell it to the center that is there, taking into consideration the effects or the consequences of their actions on their health. And I believe once we do that, it will help.
Chair, just as a follow-up, and it's to the effect that the one, I'm also aware of another one, and it is very close to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Is there...
I have a discussion with the Minister for Local Government, who happened to be my leader in Parliament, and the Greater Accra Regional Minister, and then the MPs of the area. I mean, the MP is a senior comrade of mine. I share the same floor with him, so I would have further discussions with him. I don't want to rush to say that we will do this when I don't have proper understanding of the reasons, and that is what I will do. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, sorry, Mr. Chair, I wish my brother a very good one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Honorable Patrick Boamo. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair and Member for Cape Coast South. Congratulations, my good friend. From the 6th Parliament to the 9th Parliament. Minister, congratulations again, my good friend.
Thank you.
Are you familiar with the Biosafety Act of Ghana, 2011?
Yes.
There was a recent High Court decision by some human rights group that threw out some proposals or the quest for government to introduce GMOs or genetically modified organisms. What is your take on GMOs in Ghana as a matter of policy, and whether you are going to have a second look at it, taking into consideration the resources that went into the formulation and enactment of this law, and how it stands to benefit the country? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a global debate as to whether we should continuously consuming GMO. One, and I think that the debate is also occasioned by food scarcity, particularly in many developing countries. And the contending view is that we should ban it. But the question people ask is that if we ban GMO, what will be the effect on us? Would we have enough food? I think that the Biosafety Act and the National Biosafety Authority is clothed with the capacity to be able to determine the processes through which certain organisms, GMO, genetically modified organisms, some say genetically modified food, certain organisms can be used in our domestic market. And I have no doubt whatsoever the capacity of the National Biosafety Authority to be able to assess and advise government, either through the Ministry of Agric, through Ministry of Health, and the ministry as to which could be consumed domestically. Because if you ban, what will be the effect on us? And as far as they certify that this particular food is healthy to be consumed, I would have no problem at all with that.
That's assuring, and I think you must take a very good look at that. And you being an environmentalist, what do you know of the terminology called other environmental trends? Have you heard about them? Before I proceed to ask my question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
What are some of them? Let me agitate your mind or thinking on other environmental trends. It's a global lingua, let me put it that way.
Yeah, my understanding is that it involves a lot. The challenges that the environment is posed with, either directly or indirectly, the consequences of those actions humanly and some that are natural to our basic survival. Because if the environment is protected and sustained, we can survive and live well in it. But if it is not, we all, suffer the consequences.
Thank you.
Honorable Pasubama, I take it that you are on your second question now. You gave a preamble to your second question, so you are on your second question. All right, thank you.
Kweku. So I was looking at areas like wildfires, coastal flooding, inland flooding, rising sea levels, and what have you. So let me go to my second question before Honorable Ricketts jumps on my case. I got a question from some industry players on the ban of PPs, polypropylene. They are not environmentally friendly, used in bagging cement. They've been banned by the EPA, but its enforcement has become a challenge because companies are able to pay and get their way out because they don't care. They will bring them from Nigeria and other places, get demands. They want to find out from you whether you'll be able to have the local industry create more jobs and taxes for government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That it will take legally to ensure that people conduct their businesses in accordance with law. I will do it, regardless who will be affected. So that's one thing I can assure you. But what I will say is that I will engage industry players, and it will be good, I believe, if you give me the opportunity to serve the people of this country by approving me, I would have some engagement and interactions, not just with agencies, but business players within the environmental space. And I believe that there are several other issues that may not even come up that will come up, so that together we see how best we can find solution to it. But you can't do this once again without engaging other ministries and agencies, because the issue of importing into this country borders on several ministries. Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Agro-Businesses, the Ministry of Finances, they're through their agencies. If we have such interactions and engagement, we can all find solutions to it. And of course, the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General, it borders on illegality. They would also have a role to play, and that is what I will do first, in order to find solution permanently to some of these problems. We may not be able to want to engage in such.
Minister, Chair, as a follow-up, there's actually a law in place, but so you are clothed with all the powers to ensure its enforceability. Let me go to my third and final question, Chairman. President Donald Trump, your good friend, the Fed is taking out the United States from the Paris Climate Accord. It has a lot of global implications. The effects, in your view, that Ghana stands to suffer from the withdrawal of the U.S. from this all-important climate change, given the fact that in the west coast of America, we saw the fires there, in California, even in Ghana, a lot has happened. It rains even in November, December, what have you. So some of us do believe in climate change, and a country wants to hear from you. And I wish you the very best, Murtala.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I guess there was an earlier question that was not even direct as did, but in my response, I did indicate that it is a worrying development, consideration, the amount of money that Ghana as a state gets from the United States of America to support, the work and our effort for environmental sustainability in this country. So the question is, affect those funding sources. And we have with the US government to see how we can maintain such funding sources, hoping that President Donald Trump may change his mind, and hoping and praying. So if he changes his mind, that will be good for the entire global community. But if he doesn't, we must find a way, innovative way of ensuring that such support financially we get from America continues.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Honorable Umar. Please, you have the floor.
Comrade Murtala, congratulations.
Thank you.
And you've been a role model to a lot of youth, not only from the northern region, but the entire country. And we count on you to be one of the ministers that Ministerial of Environment never got. I've been worried about solid waste and disposal in urban areas and communities. And I was wondering, or want to suggest, how will you link up with I know it is in the area of local government, that solid waste, because it is part of environmental pollution, is properly disposed. Thank you. And once again, I wish you well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember when my senior brother was the Deputy Minister for Local Government, they instituted, environmental cleanliness. The environmental or solid waste disposal is not only the responsibility of the state, it is also the responsibility of the citizenry. How do we get citizens to speed so that they understand that that responsibility is not only limited to the state? What do they all have to do? And I think that they can do that through sensitization and education. And you cannot do that in isolation as mercy. we certainly would have to do that in collaborative fashion with other ministry. And I don't see it to be a work between Ministry of Environment, Science and Tech and only local government. Even Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health has a role to play because the consequences of these effects are Ministry of Works and Housing. They all have a role to play. So I think that I will be engaging my other colleagues to see how together we can fashion out something. One on education. Ministry of Communication also has a role to play in there so that we can sensitize the people. A segregation of waste at home. Does the state needs to come in to provide 2 separate dustbins for every household so that solid waste is put here and liquid waste is put here? These are things that we all need to think through. And I believe that with the support of certain individuals and entities, we can find a solution to this. And that is what I will do. Thank you.
Honorable, are you done? Okay, all right. So now,
for the opportunity, and let me commend my friend and a colleague. I see him, he's well composed. Honorable Murtala, congratulations. View. The previous government did not assign a deputy minister to your ministry. I appreciate the enormousness of work in the face of the transition of the world. Would you say that you will subscribe to that, where you will be without a deputy, or you think
the capacity to determine what President Muhammad wants to do? I am only working in accordance with the dictates of His Excellency President Muhammad, and I have no doubt whatsoever about his sense of judgment. He knows why he wants whether we should have a deputy or not. So, Mr. Chairman, President Muhammad has proven beyond any doubt and policy formulation, and that is why his track record is outstandingly superb. So, I don't think that I'll be able to
hear he should pull the brake. And you know, especially areas at Osu, has been encroached upon. In the face of the relevance and how important these sites are into biodiversity conservation, many more. I don't know if you'll be clothed with the powers to track down on these, going into this ministry.
Well, like I said, I'm not going to work in isolation. I'm going to work with people who are clothed with enormous capacity and abilities to be able to fashion out policies that would stem the tide of what we're all concerned about. But if you ask me, I would say that we could have a task force that will have a responsibility of monitoring compliance, environmental compliance. And Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology cannot do it alone. Once again, we'll do it with other ministries. If you get a sense, I'm always talking about the interlinkages, become a development planner by profession. And I know how important working together can yield the results. If you work in isolations, as ministries and agencies, you continuously having some of the problems we have. So once again, I would engage further. I will engage the experts at the ministry and various stakeholders, including, the private sector. They all have a role to play. And most importantly, other ministries and agencies, to see how we can all find a solution to this unfortunate.
It's easier said than done. And I hear you when you said you are going to consult stakeholders, even the private sector. When you're having situations, you're having difficulties in ensuring what you believe in, what your defined colleague ministers may not agree with you. I know you are one passionate person that you want things done. If you encounter such situation, what are you going to do?
Whatever my views and my positions are, they certainly must be in sync with the views and position of His Excellency the President. So whatever view I have on any issue will be secondary, as long as that view is not in sync with the vision and policy position of the appointing authority, in this case His Excellency the President. And I have no doubt whatsoever, because his views have been espoused time beyond number. Some are captured in the NDC's manifesto. And I believe that any other minister or any other heads of agency must work in line with that. Like I said earlier, if you look at the ministry, I'm dealing with distinguished citizens of this country, professors, experts. I'll give them that free role to operate as long as their operations are in line with the vision and policy position of it.
No, I know it's one of your agencies, right?
Yes, it is.
You know how important the CSR is?
Sorry, Honorable Leader, I consider this to be your third question, third and the last question.
Chairman,
we're trying to manage time here. I'm just asking you.
Well,
just trying to manage
Chairman,
time.
if it is the case, you don't want me to proceed, no problem. I thought that I'm an environmentalist.
I'm just asking you.
No, I want to have a chat with our colleague. This is very
All right.
important. They are very important issues. These are no controversial issues. They are straightforward matters.
Okay, go ahead.
Chair, be magnanimous with the rules.
Go ahead.
In any case, I'm a leader in Parliament.
I know.
So don't limit me to three
I was
questions.
asking you. Please,
With respect to you, if I may
trying to
proceed.
manage. We
No,
are
let's
all
not
trying to
debate.
manage time.
Can I
Yeah.
proceed?
Please go ahead.
Okay. That's why you're a good man. Honorable Murtala, he is eager to answer my questions. The decline in biodiversity has come up strongly. You know, the ministry, the endangered species, i.e. flora or fauna. What will be your strategy to deal with this concern?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
Answer a question with the same,
It's been asked before.
No, I'm saying that, yes, a similar question, and I'm providing an answer that will be a repetition of the previous answers that I've provided.
Let me drop that. If it's been answered already, let me drop that and ask a different question, if that is fair. Honorable nominee, we amended the Bui Power Act, and amongst the reason was to input the need for renewable energy. So the Bui Power Act, Bui Power Authority and all that. However, we are still stuck with a 10% of renewable energy when you look at the energy mix. And we appear to be proud about it. For almost a decade now, we are still hovering around the 10%. What is your own assessment of this? And what do you think we can do to facilitate the adoption and the usage of renewable energy in our country?
Difficulty. There's some hope. If you take Melcom, is it ice cool? There is this water. I'm told that they're all using solar now. So if we can have a single solar used, at least even starting with ministries and agencies and educational institutions. Of course, the concerns have always been the initial capital that will be, invested into it. But I think that as a state, you must begin some even when there was light out, you still have, some visibility. I think that if the state can look at starting with state institutions, Parliament, for example, we can decide that Parliament should use solar. The initial capital injection is huge. We had a lot of difficulty dealing with ECG. That for me is one way that can generate some energy. If the intention was to generate about 10%, but unfortunately they are generating below 4%. How do we speed up? I mean, even if you have 10%, maybe 15, 20%, that will help in our energy mix.
Okay, Chairman, I'm happy he mentioned the Kalio solar farm. But he failed to add that the Kalio solar farm was thought through, initiated, and implemented by the erstwhile MPP administration. He should have added that at least. Anyway, my next question, Honorable Murtala, it's about quite controversial, but I know you are capable. Germany is shutting down its coal plants. All over the world, the European world, developed countries are gravitating towards. We should know our priority in terms of our unique stage of development. The fact that Germany is shutting down and they are gravitating towards clean energy doesn't mean we should necessarily do that, because the developed world, for want of a better expression, have polluted to be where they are in terms of industrialization. I know how patriotic you are. Would you sparingly, or will you suggest that as a country we should sparingly adopt renewable energy and also focus on building our industry? We should also pollute a bit. Are you for that school of thought?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember when I was in SHS2, I read Arrow of God. Arrow of God. I think that those who are interested in literature, and there's a phrase in it that we are all men when we open our mouths. And I see you speaking as a former NOX president, the student leadership. We are all, patriotic, we demand. But when you get into the field of global geopolitics engagement, it is completely different. Those countries indeed are where they are because they had a carte blanche of industrializing. And once you industrialize, you will also be emitting. Because if you look at the countries that are China, United States of America, Europe, the Russian Republic, Brazil, India, they are industrializing. So if you ask me, that's what I would say. But the point is that what will be the consequences? Because when you have your food or your mouth in another man's kitchen, you certainly won't have staying the environment, but it also affects other developmental activities. So if you ask me, yes, as a patriot, as a former student leader like my brother, yes, we should do that. But in reality, it will be extremely difficult.
China, but the pollution and the extent of it. However, ironically, most what people don't know is that last year alone, China invested more than $2 billion in the area of renewable energy. I mean, better, arguably better than even the Netherlands and some other countries that are noted for investing more in renewable energy. It's a very interesting topic, and I just wanted to tease your mind about it. My penultimate, just the final question I want to ask is on the EPA Act, the new EPA Act. We're all passionate about it. We passed it. What do you think this EPA, the new EPA law, would cure necessarily?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is now an authority, and naturally, authority gives it some powers. I think that the new law gives EPA now the prosecutorial powers now to prosecute. And for me, that is also something that is extremely good. I said we may have environmental fast-track courts to deal with people who violate, certain environmental laws. Now, if you now have EPA, which is now an authority and has prosecutorial powers, I mean, you played a significant role in crafting this particular law. I think that it will go a long way to help. And even if you look at funding sources, it's something that is encouraging.
The carbon credits, and maybe this may be my last question. If I'm an afterthought, I think about another question, I'll ask you. And that is not being fair to you. I'm being very fair to you. The carbon credit concept and the RED Plus concept has come to stay. And the difficulty with developing countries is capacity. Because we have a challenge, Prof is here, you can confirm. Because we have a challenge with capacity, we are unable to buy into the concept and rake in the necessary millions of dollars that as a country we can have because of the advantage we have in terms of afforestation. And anywhere in this country where you plant, it will grow. I see that as a huge potential, and it's as an avenue we can raise a lot of IGF, for want of a better expression, IGF. What would be your style or strategy for us to enhance our ability to buy into the carbon trade, and Ghana becomes a very important destination in terms of we taking advantage of the RED Plus concept and the carbon trade?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In everything you do, you need some level of stability. And so we are at advantage. May God forbid, assuming we're embroiled in conflict, like we can say many or some African countries. I don't think that they would have been interested in. And we seem to be doing very well. Professor Hamza's question, he enumerated some of the issues. We need to deepen that and engage such relations with other countries because financially it helps. And it is one of the surest ways we can generate enough resources to support some of the agencies that are engaged in that without necessarily, financing the activities through budgetary allocations of government.
Mr. Chair, let me wish my friend who we've been engaging ever since his name came out officially. We've been talking and hoping that things will go well. Just to end on a note that, what will you want to be remembered for after your stint of stay in the ministry? Honorable Murtala, once our Minister for Environment. What is the new designation now? Environment and what? Science and technology. What would you want to be remembered for?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Results-oriented, instilling discipline in the activities of not just the ministry, but agencies within the ministry, and doing everything possible to stamp up corruption.
Mr. Chair, I thank you, and I wish my colleague the best of luck.
Thank you very much, Honorable Leader. I will now come to my right again, and then he's going to, yeah. So you have the floor.
Chairman, thank you very much. My brother, my twin brother, I should say, in Parliament, and we do nearly everything together. If you see me in Tamale, yes. So, comrade, congratulations.
Thank you.
We knew this would come, and it has come. And I have no doubt that you will deliver. And the youth, especially the thousands of young people in Tamale and its environs, are looking up to you. I wish you all the best. You are in leadership, I'm in leadership. Hard work brought us here. So the youth should know that if you work hard, positive hard work, not any other hard work, but positive hard work, you will always be recognized. So I wish you all the best. My question to you is, cottage industry used to be the backbone of our recovery. And there are a lot of small, medium enterprises who do well in this regard. For instance, if you take the corn mill, there are a lot of metallurgists who are doing well. And as a sector minister, for which technology is an added aspect to your industry, will you consider prioritizing promoting cottage industry amongst our young men who go into metallurgy but don't get support to establish? That's metal works. They build containers, they build small machines. Will you consider prioritizing support for them so they can establish in our rural areas?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. I think that there are a lot. If you go to Abusokai, in Tamale, there is a place we call industrial area. Kumasi, I think Mayankar, and you find a lot in our farms are designed and built by Ghanaians. The only difficulty is that they don't have enough capital to be able to build more. That's one problem. The second problem is, will they have market for what they do? So it should be a multifaceted approach. The state can come in, that, okay, we provide the resources for you to build ABCD for farmers. In this country, we import tractors from Brazil and other places for farmers. Even planters. It's a simple technology. Planters, we import them. Can we give resources to our domestic investors or entrepreneurs to be able to do business. And I think that that is one surest way. The technology is here, the expertise, we have it. The difficulty is just the financial means to be able to put it to use. And that is one thing I would encourage we do.
Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. Comrade, all the best.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of, it's now your turn. If you are ready, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Honorable.
Thank you.
Yes, I can see my beautiful daughter-in-law supporting you very well at the back over there. He's very much impressed with your answers so far, and he wants you to listen. But I have a problem. I have picked your CV, and there's no indication that you are married. There is no indication, unless maybe you have to drive me, take me through, and let me. So, do you have? This is a house of record. Are you seeking the permission of the? I have a colleague who is indicating that you have disowned your wife and your children, for that matter. But do you want to seek the permission of the chair to amend accordingly?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. What actually happened is that this CV, I have been using that. So I was supposed, in fact, if you ask the clerk, I had to send the CV to them yesterday. And that is the reason. My original CV, I am married. My beautiful wife is seated behind me, very supportive. And I have 4 kids, actually.
But, Mr. Chair, very interesting.
I have 1 wife.
I'm quite curious. I know my brother very well. On the floor, if he has a strong feeling about something that he has to correct, he will correct. Why is it the case that on this occasion you never sought the permission of the chair to amend your CV?
Accordingly amended.
Honorable, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Honorable nominee. I've noted that you have undertaken a number of education. In your master's for planning, you had a thesis which read good governance and the execution of development projects at the local governance level. Would you like to share with us some of the best recommendation, observation and recommendation that you made in that thesis? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is important to state that I have had some invitation from my supervisor who insisted that I needed to publish with her, Madam Teresa, I think Dr. Teresa. One of the recommendations I made in the work I did when I presented my thesis was to recommend the elections of district assemblies long before the Constitution Commission review came with that particular position. I had done that, which was captured in my CV. And that for me, it was telling. So that was one very important recommendation. And the Constitution Review Commission actually in their report also agreed with the position I took. However, there were some difficulties. With the engagement and interactions I had with players, one of the skeptics, the views they have is that if you have the regional minister who is the RECSEC chairman, or you have the DC who is the DISEC chairman, the District Security Committee. Now, if you have a district chief executive who belongs to a different political party, in this case, the NDC is in government, and then if it is going to be elected, I mean, you can tell your guess is as good as mine, depending on the strength of each political party in each district. So the possibility of you having an MPP winning in an MPP stronghold, the elections in terms of the DC they elect is very high. Now, if the president is visiting that particular district, his security and safety will be. Institutions are strengthened, and we have confidence in the independence of the institutions. It doesn't matter who is the DC or who is the regional minister. We can still go ahead to ensure the safety and the security. Maybe the suggestion is that regional police commanders and district police commanders should be the leaders of securities within the districts and the region, and not the political appointees. So these were some of the recommendations I made in my thesis.
Very well. You have a follow-up? Are you giving the...
I commend you highly, not just for the idea, but to also publicly stand by it. I think it's a point of commendation for me. However, you do know that I think a while ago, your party took a position against that. If I'm wrong, you may correct me, but your party took a position against that when the president, former president, was pushing for the election. You can put matters in context. Would you still stand by that at this time, that we should go ahead as a country and elect our MMDCs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My party never took a position against it. My party's position was informed by the position your party took in Parliament on the matter. Because I remember at that time, we had no problem going ahead, but you were demanding certain things to be done. I can't specifically remember, but I remember in Parliament, I stand to be corrected. I remember in Parliament, I wasn't in the 7th Parliament, and those who are there can confirm this. But whatever the case is, Mr. Chairman, whatever the case is, Mr. Chairman, you asked me what I added to knowledge, the recommendations I made. And I said that my academic work, some of the recommendations I made was ABCD. It is completely insulated from the position my party took. Granted that was even the position my party took. So if you are now asking me my view, I'm saying that I subscribe to the view that we can have it elected. But there are some conditions that must be met. And I did indicate the concerns certain people raise. And I'm saying that when we reach a stage where we can all have confidence in the independence of the institutions, and agree that the DC and the rating agencies, maybe from that time we can be looking at its feasibility or its viability, if you like. So that is my position.
Mr. Chair, not to litigate further on this matter. It's not to litigate further. But Chief Whip, be tolerant a bit. As while MPP government did everything, Mr. Chair, that the election of MMDCs will be done. And my colleague can confirm that. However, he says there were some conditions. Maybe I don't want this matter to take the shine out of you. You have performed so well. You've performed so well. However, this matter of there were conditions and we didn't fulfill those conditions is not a statement of fact. And I just want to put that on record. It is not a statement of fact. We did our part. You failed to help us.
Chairman, I was in Parliament with him, and we were all part of the processes leading to the proposed referendum. The position of the NDC was that we will support the government of the day's agenda for the election of MMDCs, but on non-partisan basis. The government's position was that the election, which will allow political parties participation. This was the dichotomy between the NPP government's position and the NDC minority, the NPP government position and the NDC minority position. And the government refused to converge with us. So we declined to support the referendum. So the election, yes. Non-partisan, yes. But you said the election with the participation of political parties. So these are the facts.
Please, nominee, I think let's make progress. Honorable Patricia
Chairman, it's in our manifesto, so we implement it.
It's okay. It's okay. Yes. Please, Honorable, go ahead.
Thank you very much for the direction, but it's a very good and interesting topic, and we need to be very clear in our minds in pursuing that agenda, what it's going to do. Now you've realized that we had some level of differences. Anyway, on your CV, page 1, there's an observation that the BA Psychology, you have 2 dates on. I don't know what the 2003 means and then the 2011. If you can help us correct the difference in name. I don't know whether you started pursuing in 2003 and finished in 2011. If we want that clarity. So if you can help us achieve that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's just a typo. Yeah. I finished 2003. I went to Legon 1999-2000 academic year, the Mobroa struggle years, and my good friend, the Honorable.
So do we have
minority leader?
Do we have your consent to delete the 20?
Yes. I ended 2003. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman is well guided.
Noted. Please go ahead.
Okay. Honorable nominee. On the back of the final question put by Honorable Anodompre, I want to pursue further and ask you, what would be your top priorities? And our 3 top priorities as a Minister of Environment. 3 top priority projects as a Minister of Environment, Science and Technology. Thank you.
First and foremost, help make the various agencies financially independent. That's 1. 2, build the capacity of people who are working, not just the ministry, but the agencies. And I say this because there are a lot of funding sources. The UNDP I talked about, they have funding that helps to build capacity of agencies and ministries who are working in the area of environmental sustainability. And 2, to work in collaborative fashion with my other colleagues to stem the tide of the havoc caused by Galamsey. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that answer. And then Mr. Nominee, or Mr. Chairman, I heard you rightly say that the implementation of the environmental laws and regulations should rather be the responsibility of your ministry. And especially when it comes to lands and natural resources, they are not the ministry that should be responsible for that. May I know from you, you will be, one of your agencies is the EPA. Do they have the required personnel and the right monitoring systems to undertake this regulatory function appropriately? And if not, what would you do to ensure?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From the outside, I can say they do, but I'll begin to have a proper appreciation of what they do once I get in there. After I had an interactions with the agencies, but I've indicated through the Chief Director that after you approve me and I'm sworn into office, I would have a detailed presentation of each of the agencies, department by department, so that I will do a proper assessment of the capacity of the agencies and the projects they have. From that time, I'll be able to have a proper appreciation of their capacity, and then we'll take it from there.
Right, and a follow-up, Honorable Nominee, don't you think, by your answer, you shouldn't have said that they do, but rather you are not in the know, and that you will find an appropriate way of learning and finding out whether they have the right personnel, the right number of personnel to execute those projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I laid my answer with the condition. I said from the outset, I get the impression that they do, because I see that EPA is working. Of course, we would want them to do more, but I'm saying that I have proper appreciation once I get in there. But from the outset, based on what I have seen, the documents I have seen, they seem to be doing very well. But at least they need to do more.
Very well, Honorable Nominee. I'm asking if your ministry, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, does not overlap with the new Ministry of Climate Change and what is that second one? I'm not too sure. Yes, there is a ministry. A Minister of State responsible, which will, so it is not a ministry.
Climate change and sustainability.
Yes.
Just an executive officer.
It's just an executive. Okay, then I will, and then I will drop my question on that, because I felt strongly that there was going to be an overlapping, and it is very important that we look at that one. I've heard you severally mention about funding. Funding is a very critical need in the ministry of which you are going to be responsible for. And one area that I believe that we need to look at is to define and ensure that we set aside a certain percentage of our funds for research. I want to find out from you if you agree with this assertion, and if not, what will be your alternative plan? Because work still has to be undertaken by that ministry. Thank you.
I think that the demand that is entirely requested by experts, research institutions, is that if we can devote even 1% of our GDP, if I stand to be corrected, for research funding. I believe that research is not only important, but essential, it's very critical. And I think that the state must take issues of research very, very serious. I'm a research student myself, and I know how impactful research is to our complete, if you like, socioeconomic developments as a state. When proper research is done, it helps even in planning, because you have something, at hand that you can work towards or work on. But when you have research institutions that are bereft of the basic resource funding that is supposed to be given to them to be able to execute their project, you have a problem. So I think that we need to take the issue of research serious. And President Mahama is committed. If you read the NDC manifesto and statements he even made when he engaged some of research institutions, that he's more than willing to give them the needed funding for the purposes of their research work.
My direct question was whether we are setting a research fund, setting that fund aside to prosecute.
Mr. Chair, there is already a fund for research. In fact, the act was passed in 2020. And like I said, the government was committed or promised to put a seed capital of 50 million Ghana cedis. Unfortunately, for 4 years, my understanding is that not a dime was put in it, because there was a debate, or if you like, a conflict between Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health, Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, as to which ministry handles it. So I'm saying that if the monies were put in it as a seed capital, maybe by now we would have generated more than the 50 million. Yes, I would support any decision or move to put in the necessary money into that seed capital. I would support that.
And you think there will still not be that kind of controversy between the ministries. And I want you to also tell us what percentage of research funding per year GDP should we apply into this particular way? I want to specific, if it's possible, and when you are giving the nod.
Currently, we are doing less than 1%. Less than 1%. I mean, currently. I'm saying a beggar has no choice, but at least let's start somewhere. I'm happy my senior brother is the former Minister for Finance. If I had the opportunity, I would have asked him why they didn't give the 1% which was requested. I mean, if we have more than 1%, that would be encouraging.
Honorable, the follow-up is
Mr.
that
Chairman,
we are relating it to...
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I came to solidarize with him, but it appears he's inviting me into the discussion.
Your nominee
And
is invited.
I do not want to accept that invitation.
Please, you are not
unfortunately.
invited. You are not invited.
Thank you very much. There's also another aspect of your job which I want us to. What plans do you have to promote the use of natural resources such as minerals, forests, and water bodies if given the nod?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say the use, if you could expatiate on that.
Yes, you know, we have a very big challenge. We have a very big challenge when it comes to the promotion of our natural resources. You are in charge of technology. You are also in charge of science. And you're also in charge of the environment. And you have to factor all these aspects of our life to ensure that in trying to promote the use of our natural resources, there is a very responsible way of doing it. So that is where I am looking at. That is where my question relates to. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Initially, in one of my responses, I talked about the already laws that we have enacted to preserve the environment, if you like, to conserve and sustain the environment. And the Hazardous and Electronic Waste Control and Management Act I talked about, and the fact that we now have the e-waste recycling, at Agbogboloshi, reclamation and of degraded lands. If we have agriculture smart technology, we'll be able to help in this direction. And we can only do so if research institutions are given the needed resources to come out with that. Of course, in collaboration with the Ministry of Agric, because we know the effects of our agriculture activities on our environment. Again, we fight galamsey. I see that as a moral duty and a responsibility. I don't know what in my earlier, answers I said, look, the idea of helping to sustain the environment is anchored on scripture. And I made reference to Genesis 2:15. I also made reference to Quran chapter 2, verse 30, where the Lord, and in this case I'm referring to God, and treat all of us to do everything possible to take care of the environment. It's a moral duty. Maybe perhaps our religious groupings, the pastors, the imams, should incorporate in their sermons, their preachings, the need for us all to play a role in sustaining the environment in which we live. And I think that is one way. So there will be so much education and sensitization that will go a long way to help. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My sister Aja Ladi touched on how you can deploy our women to assist with waste management. But I see a much broader area. You recollect that our women are often disproportionately impacted by climate change, especially in low-income countries where they may be more susceptible to harm due to poverty, lack of education, and limited decision-making power. Women may have limited access to resources such as land, credit, and technology, which can limit their ability to adapt to climate change and mitigate its impact. Honorable nominee, what specific policies does government plan to implement to address the climate change and environmental sustainability, especially as regards to women? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. His Excellency President Mahama made history by nominating a running mate as a woman of substance, a woman, I say, who is more than 1,000 men in terms of her achievement. And I think that it is not for nothing that she was made a running mate. And the good people of this country actually, endorse that. Women have a significant role to play in all aspects of our life, whether environment or agriculture. And I can tell you that I'll do everything possible as far as the ministry is concerned to give women a lead role. You were a deputy minister there, and the information I get there, you perform outstandingly. So when women are given the chance, they deliver, and would ensure that we make women play a lead role in this journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, I have a challenge, and the challenge situates directly in my constituency. In Accra and Kumasi, but in Kumasi, my constituency is where we have the abattoir. Responsible disposal of waste is very much required when you have abattoirs situated in the middle of the town. There is a technology that can be used, and at the same time, the output will be commercially useful as a society, if given the nod. Honorable Minister, how are you going to ensure that the abattoirs in Accra and Kumasi will embark on this responsible waste disposal? As I speak now, if you go around my constituency where the abattoir is at this point in time, I don't think you can breathe well because of the stench that comes out. What would you recommend as a solution or a technological solution to address that particular issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable, you indicated that there is a technology.
Yes.
I indicated to you yesterday that I shall be engaging you. As a matter of fact, I've engaged several other, players in the industry. The former minister, I spoke with him on phone. I had a discussion with you. You are my mother. I'll come and sit with you to see how we can all together exploit that technology for Mother Ghana. I know you are a patriotic citizen, so we'll do that. But self-discipline is also very important. There are laws and regulations governing the conduct of anybody in this country, including those who operate the abattoirs. We must ensure that they adhere to those regulations. But we'll look further into some of the technologies and see how we can harness it to be able to solve some of these problems. Thank you.
Right. Much, Mr. Chairman. Women in science is something that is very much required if we want to achieve our sustainable development goals and ensure the inclusion of women in addressing climate actions and all other actions, what would be your best approach to ensure that we have equal numbers of women? Maybe I shouldn't use equity, I should use equality, but equity. We have an appreciable number of women and girls undertaking science in school. Thank you.
I think that the STEM, like I said earlier, is not only important but essential. And my earlier suggestion is that if we can incorporate STEM education at all levels of education, curricula of all levels of education. One thing I've observed as a trained teacher, at the lower primary, you may have the numbers of girls and boys the same. Sometimes the girls are more than the boys, particularly in rural Ghana. But as they progress, the number of girls, reduce, and then the boys will have that. And in some communities, unfortunately, they feel that girls are not supposed to go to school. There's a profound socio-cultural, aspects of our life that hinders the growth of girls, particularly in the area of science. I have 2 boys, 2 daughters, and they are wonderful girls. And I will do everything possible to assist them, just like I will assist the boys, to be able to unearth their enormous potentials. So if you introduce or incorporate STEM education at all levels, and maybe emphasize the need for girls to be able to bridge the gap between boys who excel in the sciences and mathematics and engineering, so that the girls can catch up with. I think that is one thing that will help. We have an affirmative law in Ghana now. How do we harness that law to ensure that the implementation or enforcement of it yield the needed intended results? Unfortunately, we may have laws, but the ability to enforce the laws for the purpose for which they were crafted, for me, has always been the challenge. Maybe that is one thing we need to look at, and we need everybody to be engaged, particularly Parliament.
Right. Thank you very much. That you've brought the issue of affirmative action. And I don't think anybody has to implement that, apart from you, the sector ministries that are being put in place to do that. And it will require special funding to be able to also implement these things effectively. But one of the areas that I want us to look at in the promotion of science, I don't know, Honorable Nominee, whether you are aware that UNESCO has a special project to ensure the enhancement of women in sciences. I'm not sure. I'm asking, do you have any such idea?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not only science, even in cultural education, I know UNESCO, and UNESCO have had that for a very long time. When I was the Secretary General of the All Africa Students Union, I had the opportunity to have attended UNESCO conferences, that bordered so much on how we could bring women to equal par, if you like, with men, in terms of science education, in terms of culture, in terms of many other things. So I do have some understanding of what UNESCO does with regards to women.
Thank you. Then I am going to engage you so that we'll find ways of ensuring that we can enhance the women or girls' participation in science subjects, and also be able to apply technology to the common things that we do on an everyday basis. You realize that women are managers of the home, even the food that we eat. If there are scientific way to prove that certain food will inure to a good health, that one can be promoted. So I believe with that. I'm not preaching. I'm preaching to the converted. That's what I'm saying. I'm preaching to the. So I want you to take a cue from that. Honorable Nominee, I know if I have to go on and ask you questions, you talk, you speak till we all go to sleep. So I'm going to end here because you love speaking and you are always articulate. So I'm going to end here. I wish you well in your future endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I will give the floor to Honorable Kwaku Riketegan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Comrade, congratulations.
Presido. Thank you.
Just a quick, I want to follow up. Well, it's a question, but it's something that came out of what Honorable Patrick Boama said, and then something you yourself said, which I think was very important, and that is to take you back to this carbon trade business. One thing you said, which is something that President John Dramani Mahama has already said about this every man, planting a tree, which you have now taken it further to be every child also planting a tree. I mean, there's a lot to get from this carbon trade. And if we have the capacity and build out what you are talking about and what President Mahama has said earlier on, then we can be able to build that capacity to get that carbon credit, which will obviously become some of the monies that if you can call it IGF, to fund, your ministry at least. But for me, the most important part, and I want your opinion on this, and I'm happy that the finance minister, former finance minister, is also here, that we have a revenue target. You can contribute from your ministry more than for just your ministry, but you can actually contribute nationally to basically in driving up our revenues. We have all these oil companies and mining companies and all that. I want to know your view about how we can actually sort of get people to pay or get institutions to pay for their carbon footprints so that we will use that to raise revenue for the Ministry, of Finance, and by that I mean for the nation. Just your view on that, because you made a very, very, very important point on the credit, carbon credit. But looking at the other side of the carbon footprint, which is basically some kind of a tax that will be earned by the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that stakeholder engagement is very, very important. And particularly Parliament has a role, because you are talking about enacting a law. We first and foremost must have the buy-in of Parliament. We must have the buy-in of various agencies and ministries who will be working in that area. And I think that maybe it's one thing I need to think through. I may have further, discussions with you. If we can start something at the ministry, I think it's a laudable idea.
Thank you very much. Comrade, congratulations. Thank you.
Honorable Murtala.
Mr. Speaker.
Katuma Biola.
Nah.
Zaplaga Avil Pam.
I'm not actually.
Honorable Murtala, they said I should go 2 more sentences. And you know what I'm likely to say?
You to say it.
I shouldn't say it, eh?
No.
Okay. I recognize Patrick Nomo, Chief Director, Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. Hajia Hadiatu Muntala, wife of the nominee. Bawa Fuseni Tamale Dakbema. For Idrisu Abdul Jabbar Gambihin Dana. Mohammed Yusuf Salambi Lana. Mahama Idrisu Sintaro Sakoya Lana. Abdul Rahman Mohammed, Rep of Yana. Idrisu Mohammed Bobrina. Sheikh Abdul Salam Ahmed, Northern Regional Chief Imam, Alhaji Alasan Dandawa, Dukcho Yakub Isa, Abaria Sunni Community Tamale. Abaria, okay. Sheikh Mashood Ahmed Yakubu, Abaria Sunni Community Tamale. Alhaji Baba Ibrahim, brother of Honorable Murtala Muhammed, the nominee. Ishaku Umar Farouk, Constituency Chairman. Abdul Mumin Al-Hassan, Northern Regional Vice Chairman, NDC. Alhaji Bewa, Northern Regional Vice Chairman, NDC. Alhaji Michel, Northern Regional Imam of NDC. Chief Dudu Sufo Azoka, Vice Chairman, National Vice Chairman, NDC. You are all welcome. Honourable member, thank you for attending upon the committee and taking your time to express your views about questions asked. You will hear from the committee and you are hereby discharged. The next nominee,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
should be ready to take the chair.
Kawa Bahadia, Tuan the Tumo, Mumbai, Mamusanka Kawa, and stay ever from her. Some of you have some. This one can be what?
Buying 20 disinfectant, buying stain remover, and so on. You were buying liquid soap, buying zone power bleach.